The smell hit me before I even opened the door. That metallic, rotten stench that makes your stomach turn. But nothing could have prepared me for what I found inside. My 7-year-old son Kellen, pale and trembling, forced to eat gray, spoiled meat while my own family stood over him like prison guards. What happened next would change all our lives forever. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why sometimes the quietest revenge is the most devastating. I rushed through the front door, grocery bags still in hand, following that awful smell. There in the kitchen sat my beautiful boy, tears streaming down his face, a plate of clearly spoiled meat in front of him. My sister Taylor stood behind him with a spatula raised like a weapon. "Eat it," she snapped at Kellen. "You already wasted one plate by throwing up." My heart stopped. "What the hell are you feeding him?" Taylor didn't even flinch. Her bleached hair was pulled back tight, and she looked at me like I was the problem. "Leftovers. He threw up the first round, so now he's finishing it. That's how discipline works." I dropped everything and rushed to Kellen. His little face was ghost white, covered in sweat, with vomit stains down his shirt. His hands shook as he held the fork. "I don't feel good, Mommy," he whispered. The rage building inside me was unlike anything I'd ever felt. "You made him eat spoiled meat." Taylor just smirked. "What's the big deal? A little food poisoning builds character. You've raised a soft little wimp." I'm trying to toughen him up. Then came the words that would haunt me forever. "You made him eat his own vomit. If he hadn't thrown it up, I wouldn't have had to." Just then, my parents walked in from the backyard. Mom was wiping her hands on a towel. Dad had a beer and that familiar smug expression I'd grown to hate. "Oh, don't start with your drama again," Mom sighed, rolling her eyes. "Taylor's just helping out. You should be thankful someone's finally giving your brat some structure." "He's 7 years old." Dad took a swig of his beer and said the words that would end our relationship forever. 7 and still whining like a baby. If he can't handle a little bad meat, maybe he shouldn't be alive. Maybe the universe was trying to tell you something when he almost died at birth. My blood turned to ice. "What did you say?" "You heard me. Should have let him go back then. Would have saved us all the trouble. Worthless." I lifted Kellen into my arms. His tiny body was ice cold, drenched in sweat. His lips tinged blue. And my mother, my own mother, had the nerve to laugh. "Oh please, it's not even that bad. He's just dramatic like his mother. Always has been. He's sick. He needs a doctor. So take him to one," Taylor shrugged. "And don't come crying back when they say it's just a tummy ache." Dad stepped closer, his voice full of venom. "You think this is funny? We think you're pathetic. You show up here with your failed life, your bastard kid, always expecting handouts and sympathy. You want to cry over a little puke. Go cry somewhere else." As Kellen groaned softly against my shoulder, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just walked toward the door. But as I passed the kitchen, I stopped, turned slowly, and looked at all three of them. "You won't see him again. You won't touch him. You won't even deserve to say his name." Taylor scoffed. "You'll come crawling back when you can't afford rent. You always do." That night, Kellen was admitted to the hospital for dehydration, bacterial food poisoning, and a torn esophagus from forced vomiting. The ER nurse took pictures. They made notes. But when I asked about pressing charges, the doctor said gently, "Do you have proof? Unless he's in imminent danger or there's visible physical abuse." I stared at that clipboard and felt something crack inside me. Imminent danger. Like force-feeding a child spoiled meat until he vomits blood wasn't enough. I held Kellen's hand all night. And by morning, I knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to report them. I wasn't going to plead. I was going to erase them from every part of my life. Not quietly, not with peace, but slowly, thoroughly, like cutting rot from a wound. Kellen recovered slowly. He didn't eat solid food for a week. He'd flinch every time someone raised their voice. His once bright, curious eyes now carried shadows of trauma. But every time he fell asleep, I opened my notebook and wrote, I made a list of everything they feared most. For Taylor, her reputation, her shiny real estate career. Her perfectly filtered Instagram life where she pretended to be a motivational success story. For my mother, rejection, not being adored by her church friends, not being seen as the perfect long-suffering matriarch. For my father, losing control, being told he was irrelevant, having his fake military hero image exposed. So I started with Taylor. I didn't post anything online. I didn't call CPS. I went to her real estate office and waited in the parking lot. When she came out to smoke by the back exit where she thought no one could hear, I recorded her phone conversation. "You think I give a crap if he puked?" she laughed. "He's lucky I didn't shove it down his throat. That's what little trash like him needs. Fear." My hand never shook as I let the phone roll. Then I did my research. I pulled her property records, looked for expired permits, falsified reports. I found one. A duplex she flipped too fast where the electrical wiring never passed inspection. She'd paid someone under the table to ignore it. I contacted a woman I knew who used to rent from Taylor, a single mom whose child had been electrocuted by an ungrounded socket. She'd been waiting years for someone to ask about her experience. Within a week, I'd sent the recording to Taylor's brokerage board and the local housing authority. Her license was suspended pending investigation. That same week, I took Kellen to the park for ice cream. He smiled for the first time in weeks. He didn't know what I had done. He didn't need to. He just needed peace. My mother stood up every Sunday at church, raised her hands in praise, and recited the same lines. "God gave me 2 beautiful daughters and a grandchild I adore. We are a blessed family." I visited that church. I sat in the back during her women's ministry group, then walked in holding a file folder. Inside were printed transcripts of what she'd said the night Kellen was poisoned. He should have died at birth, along with photos of him in the ER, pale and trembling with wires taped to his chest. One woman gasped. Another dropped her Bible. My mother's face turned to chalk. "I'm the daughter she says she adores," I announced calmly. "The mother of the grandson she laughs at. This is the truth." I placed the folder on the table and walked out. 2 days later, her name was removed from the women's ministry mailing list. My father had always been a man of few words, mostly grunts, orders, and threats. But he had his veterans club that he co-founded. They respected him, thought he was a hero who stood for honor. He forgot I still had the letters, the ones he wrote to his brother in the 1980s about how he'd lied about his military medals so people would shut up about him beating his kids. I copied those letters and added one of my own. "Since you value truth, I thought you should see who really wears your colors." I mailed it to every member of his club. That was the only time he ever called me. He didn't scream, didn't threaten. Just said quietly, "You've made a mistake." "So did you, Dad," I replied. "The second you looked at a child and saw someone worthless." Then I blocked his number. But none of that was the real revenge. The real revenge happened quietly. The following week, I bought Kellen a canvas and paints. He started drawing again, humming to himself while he painted. Little things like dinosaurs, trees, pictures of me holding his hand. One night he asked, "Mom, when bad people hurt kids, do they go to jail?" "Sometimes," I said softly. "Sometimes they just lose everything." He nodded and dipped his brush in blue. "I hope they do." That's when I knew the real victory wasn't their destruction. It was his healing. Months later my phone rang. Block number. Something told me to answer. My father's voice came through, low and shaky. "Carrie, we need to talk about what's happening." "You mean the investigations, the ministry backlash, or the Veterans Board removing your name from the charter you helped write?" "How did you?" "Because I was raised in your house. I know how to track filth. You taught me." He cleared his throat. "We didn't know it would go this far. We were just hard on you. Maybe too hard. But it wasn't meant to. You made my child eat his own vomit, Dad. And you laughed. All of you laughed." Silence. "Don't try to rewrite it. You didn't go too far. You were monsters. And now your faces are being held to the mirror. Carrie, your mom's not well. That made me laugh, a sharp, bitter sound. Oh, but Kellen was supposed to be well when she let him eat spoiled meat. Then came the word that broke him. Please. And quietly. We're losing everything. Taylor can't get her license back. Your mom's been asked to stop attending her own church. And me. They voted me out of my own damn board. That sounds awful, I said flatly. But my son still flinches when someone touches his plate. He still checks every bite I serve him. He still asks if people think he's worthless. More silence. Then he whispered, "What do you want from us?" I stood at my kitchen sink, watching Kellen in the backyard through the window. He was barefoot in the grass, painting on an old piece of wood. The sun was shining, and for the first time in months, he looked truly peaceful. "I don't want anything from you," I said into the phone. "But I want something for you." "What?" I leaned closer to the phone, my voice steady. "I want you to sit in the silence you created. I want you to watch your empire rot. I want your neighbors to whisper, your church friends to avoid eye contact, your name to mean shame in the same mouths that used to praise it. I want you to feel as discarded as you made me feel, as disgusting as you made my son feel." He tried to speak, but I cut him off. "And I want you to remember something." "What?" "You said he deserved worse for existing." A breath caught in his throat. "Well now," I said softly. "He's the reason you're nothing." Then I hung up. I never answered another call from them again. They sent letters, crumpled, half-hearted apologies with one pathetic line at the bottom. "Please let us see him. We miss our grandson." I tore it in half and mailed it back. Nothing else. Just the two pieces. Weeks passed. Then months. One afternoon, Kellen came into my room holding a drawing. A stick figure version of us holding hands, standing in front of a little house with a garden. "Is this our forever home?" he asked. I knelt down beside him. "It can be. No more them. No more them." He smiled. "Good. I like quiet." "Me too. Because silence is what abusers fear most. Not screaming, not lawsuits, not revenge. Silence. The silence of no access, no forgiveness, no power. Years from now, they'll still be searching for someone to blame. But they'll only find their own voices echoing in the empty rooms they built with cruelty. They'll die knowing that the one child they mocked for existing became the reason their legacy burned down to ash. And my son. He'll grow up knowing exactly what he's worth. Everything. Remember. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away and let toxic people destroy themselves. Protect your peace, protect your children, and never let anyone convince you that abuse is discipline. Asterisk asterisk. Asterisk if this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, you're stronger than you know, and you deserve better than anyone who makes you question your worth. Asterisk.